Whoa. Gotta make a stack here. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to my May wrap-up, pardon the first, where we are going to go over 32 books that I've read, to be fair, the last 3 days of April, and then up to now. So this includes most of my reads from the light versus dark romance readathon, so be prepared for that. And I am going to do this the way I've been doing the last two wrap-ups that I did, and that is I will quickly go over all of the books that I read, and then the books that are 5-star I'll talk a little bit more about. This is just to help keep this from being too long, because when I read 32 books, that's a lot. So let's go ahead and get started. Also, you're going to notice a trend. I am totally on an age gap stint. I've already made a video about a few more. I've read a lot of student teacher books as well as just a lot of age gaps, and I'm still in the middle of that right now. So you'll be, if you like that, you're about to get a lot of recs for it. So let's go. So the first one I have is The Forbidden Bride by Penny Wilder, and this was 4.5 stars, so it was really good. This is about this girl that she is in love with her father's best friend, and he turns her down and then leaves town for quite a long time. And when he comes back, he realizes that he was dumb to turn her away, even though she's too young for him. And now he's back and he's ready to have her. And this is pretty short. It's only 150 pages. Super good. Then I read the Kane series by Shannara Williams, and I'm including the entire series in this. I gave this 4 stars. This is another best friend's daughter. This is a diverse story. There's some mixed races in here. This is we kind of grow with her story. There's a lot of drama in here. There is attempted murder, there is blackmail, and there's lots of sexy times. So there's that. Then I read the Thomas Ilkin trilogy by N.R. Walker. This was actually a 5, 5, and a 4-star, but I already talked about this pretty excessively in my age gap, as well as the other two I just mentioned. So this is really good. This is a male-male age gap, and this is a son's best friend romance. So his son's friend gets an internship at his architect firm, and they end up having a relationship, and it's really sweet. Actually, if you don't want large amounts of smut, I suggest this for you. Also, all 3 of them are fairly short, so together they basically equal 1. Then I read Lessons in Corruption. This was for the readathon. This is a student teacher romance with a female teacher who's 26 and her male student who is 18, and the son of the motorcycle president. It was a really fun book. It's very sexy. She meets him before she knows he's her student, which happens a lot in those books because it makes us feel less hinky if they have a connection before they find out who they are. I don't know, whatever. It was fun. Then I read Cream Pie by Madison Faye, as well as Brat by Madison Faye. These were both novellas. They were both really sexy. Both of them had age gaps. And they're smutty, that's for sure. They were really quick. You can't find those on Amazon. You have to go to Madison Faye's website to purchase them. Then I read Shacking Up, which I have here. This is by Helena Hunting. This is the first book in her, I forgot what the series is called. Is it the Shacking Up series? I don't know, but it's going to be a series. This is the first one. This I gave 4.5 stars. This is about a girl named Ruby who she gets kissed and coughed on by this guy at a party. And so she ends up bombing her audition the next day by throwing up on the director. And then it turns out that this guy is her best friend's fiance's best friend or cousin. And so he feels super guilty that he ruined her chance at this. And so he actually is going to start traveling a lot for work, and he has a few really unique pets that need special care, and so he gives her a chance to take care of his pets and let her live in his apartment while she takes care of the pets. And they are so cute. There's a ferret and there's a tarantula. The ferret's adorable. And so this kind of ends up being like a friends to lovers. It's adorable. Then I read Take Me, Break Me by Carrie Silverwood. This was also for the readathon. So is that one. And this is a BDSM novel. It's about this woman who is going to do this like rape fantasy documentary with her friend, but really she's making the documentary because she wants to be with him. And so she is kind of sort of tricking him into it, but not, because he also knows what she's doing. He's just planning not to play along with her. But then once he has her there and they feel the feelings, he goes for it. This book had some much more intense BDSM than I'm usually interested in. I really just kind of like DNS situations. I don't really like the bondage and that part of it. So there was a lot of like toys used that I'm not super comfortable with, but the story was really beautiful as a whole. But I just want to warn you that if you are more just into the like, ooh, spankings or holding your ankles, like this one, it was pretty intense and involved like sharing. And yeah, the story was good, but it hurt a little bit. So I gave that 4 points. Then, sadly, I read Beyond Scandal and Desire by Lorraine Heath. This is the first in the A Sin for All Seasons, and I only gave this a 3.5. And it's because it has a trope in here that I don't really like, and that is the making someone fall in love with you for revenge purposes, but you fall in love with them anyway, and then they find out about it, and now you love them, but they don't love you because you lied. Anyway, that is more common than you think in historical romances, at least, and some contemporary I've read too. So, yes, but we get introduced to a family of bastards who, this actually spins off kind of from the previous series I read by her, where the last book was about baby farming, where a girl's, she was this guy's mistress and she got pregnant and he was planning to farm out her baby. And baby farming meant you'd give your baby away and that person would kill the baby. And the set of circumstances for this book is that all of these children living with this woman, except one of them, is children that like other people brought to her to be farmed out, but she kept them instead. And there is actually like a lot more to do with this book, which is why it didn't end up being less than 3.5 stars, because I almost DNF'd it. I almost only gave it 2 stars. And then the ending really, really brought it back around for me, because I was not expecting that to be what was going to happen. And so it really shocked me. So I think if you don't mind that trope, like you might like this more than me. It's just, I have a really particular type of like male that I like to read if they're going to be a jerk. And this guy just, there was too much going on with him for me. So sadly, this was only a 3.5, but I'm excited to continue the series because I liked a lot of the other people I got introduced to. So I'm not giving up on Lorraine Heath. I mean, sometimes things just aren't going to be a hit for you, right? Then I read Red Dirt Heart by N.R. Walker, which is another male-male series, this one taking place in Australia. And this American ends up there for like a work program, and he starts falling in love with the leader of the ranch, who is not a completely closeted gay man, but like half in, half out. Like a few people he loves know about it, but like his community at large doesn't, because he wouldn't be respected as a farmer if they knew that he was gay. N.R. Walker writes really sweet male-male romances. I only ended up reading the first one in this series. I'm just not like super interested in the plot that's going on, but the romance is good. Like, she writes really sweet romances. My friend Lynn told me about her, and I'll probably continue the series at some point, but I just like wasn't in the mood for how like nice it was. And I think you guys might appreciate that more than me. So that was a 4-star read. It just wasn't for me. Then, man, I was striking out with my historical romances so far. I read The Wicked Duke by Madeline Hunter. And this was kind of sort of like the same thing, where it was like a revenge marriage. So there's this guy, the Duke of Ashbury, or Aylesbury, not Ashbury, who is accused of having killed his brother. And he's also accused of assaulting this girl's cousin. And so the uncle, who's the father of the cousin and the uncle to our main heroine, he wants to trap this duke into a marriage with his niece so that he can like get money from him and extort him for assaulting his daughter, which I'm like, so you want to marry to your niece? He assaulted your daughter. So yeah. And again, I just really didn't have a thing for this main character, and I didn't really like the heroine either. But I thought it was an interesting plot. So again, I have another book in this series by Madeline Hunter. This is actually the third one, which I hate when that happens. But I am gonna try one of the other ones, but I wasn't a huge fan of this one, and it made me sad. So this was only 3 stars. Then I read The Anatomy of Jane and The Anatomy of Us, and these are by Amelia LaFay. And I gave these 4 stars and 4.5 stars. And this is actually about a menage. So this is about a male couple, and they're these 2 high-profile guys. Like one of them is a chef and one of them is a businessman. And Jane is their maid, and they stumble into the apartment and start having sex while she is working one day. And because they're both famous, the one guy reminds her, like, you signed an NDA, you can't tell anyone what you've seen, or like, we're gonna sue you. And the other guy, he actually is interested in her. And so he wants them to invite her into their relationship. And yeah, it goes from there. And she's in a little bit of like trouble in her life. And these men make her feel safe and also kind of desired. And also one of them's into a little bit of BDSM. So there's like mild forms of kink in here, which I think a menage already for some of you is enough kink anyway. Leave it up to you. This one was really cute actually. And there was wooing in place. And the one guy who's not super romantic, like asked Jane to like help him have like a good birthday for his boyfriend, and like it's cute. So I like menages, especially when they're like done really well. So those ones were cute, and the second one was even better, but I can't tell you why because it's a huge spoiler and you should really try these books. You have to purchase them because they're not on Kindle Unlimited, but they were worth it if you like a menage. I'll tell you that. I really, really liked it. Then I read Making the Move by Jessica Calla. This is a sequel to a book that I read in ARC for last year, and it's a college and like sports romance. And this is a friends to lovers, and it is the girl from the first novel. She was the girlfriend of our main character, and then she went away to study abroad, and they ended up breaking up while she was gone. And now she's back, and her ex-boyfriend's best friend is there to kind of like look out for her because she goes a little bit crazy when she's back. So this was sweet, but also I feel like not a lot was happening. It was too long for what was going on, and the ending just kind of went off the rails for me, and so I only gave that one 3.5 stars. Then I read Daddy Issues and Who's Your Daddy by Seth King. This is a duology, a male-male age gap romance about a guy whose mom was married to this guy 10 years ago for only 2 years, and they didn't live together and they didn't sleep together because he was a closeted gay man. So they end up meeting again 10 years later when the younger man's grandmother dies, and now she was still friends with her daughter's ex-husband. They were friends. They really cared about each other, and she was actually very supportive of him when he ended up coming out after divorcing his ex-wife. And so these two, they immediately have feelings for each other, and they try to like resist it a lot, and it was really hot and good. But then the second one just did a lot of the redundant issues, and I'm not a huge fan of when a sequel, like, give me other issues, give me the struggles within the relationship, not dealing with the same problems again, especially like in an age gap. So those ones weren't as good. I read Harvest of Sighs by Sierra Simone, 4.5 stars. Absolutely sexy and amazing. This has every possible entanglement of relationships you can think of. The series has only gotten better for me. I think the first one, like, I was really bored in the first book. And with Sierra Simone's, like, I can't go back, like, and reread. I know that sounds so strange, but, like, I've never been able to reread the Camelot series because it just gets to me too much. Like, I just can't do it. And, like, I can't go back and reread A Lesson in Thorns because once you get to a certain point, it, like, hurts me to go back and see where they were at before. But I really liked it. It had a horrible cliffhanger. The final book doesn't come out until Halloween. Then I read Illicit by Ava Harrison. So, Illicit is about this girl that she catches her boyfriend cheating at a party. And so then she dumps him. And then she goes out to the beach and she runs into this guy on the beach and they end up having sex. And then she leaves before he wakes up. And the next day it's her history teacher. And it's super awkward from there. This one had a lot more going on with it than the sex. I'll tell you that for sure. There actually isn't that much sex in the book at all. So if you want kind of the angst of it without too much smut, you could definitely try this. Again, like, there's sex in the beginning. That's like the first time they interact, but then there's really not a lot for a long time. So, something to remember. Okay. Then I read another one like that. Sorry, this is why I was getting confused. This one is called Damaged by H.M. Ward. So this one involves a girl who she goes out on a blind date and she sits down at the wrong table and meets this guy. And then her friend comes in and she realizes that this is the wrong guy, so she gets pulled over to another table. Then the guy that she is actually on the blind date with is an asshole. So she leaves, goes to the parking lot, runs into this guy, Peter, out there. They end up going back to his place. They get almost all the way up to the point of having sex, and then he kicks her out. He says he's not ready to do it, and she leaves. And then the next day, he's her teacher. Okay, so that's all the books that weren't 5 stars. Here we go. So the first 5-star I read this month was Blindsided by Amy Dawes. This is a friends to lovers romance. It also has the virgin trope, and friends with benefits then happens, and this was so cute. This is set in the UK. This is, like, I love Amy Dawes books. They're so much fun. I really, really like this book. I really liked their relationship as friends. And also there's a plus size heroine in this. Also, the hero is Scottish and there are kilts involved, and it's adorable. And I loved it. The other 5-star I read was called Poison by Jade West. This was a very intense novel. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. This book had a lot of things all mixed up in it, had a lot of feels, it had a lot of dark themes. It has some pretty serious kinds of kink involved and more to do with, like, bodily fluids and things, which I hadn't read about before, but I'm usually willing to give it a try. And also is about this toxic relationship, or what other people perceive as a toxic relationship. There was kink shaming involved, but at the end of it, there was these 2 damaged people that they were the only 2 that understood each other. There is an assault in this book. There is illness and mental illness involved. So please look up the trigger warnings. This is also, though, an own voices, because the author herself was recently diagnosed with epilepsy, which is the illness we're dealing with. And I feel like she lives it. So what can you do? But it was so powerful. I cried. But it is one of those where, like, I feel like the damaged people, the damaged stories are the ones that get to me the most. And that's what I felt when I was reading this book. And yeah, I really, really loved it. It was so good. Then I read Misbehaved by Charlie Rose. This was a student-teacher romance. It was also a brother's best friend. It was also wasn't an age gap. It's a very small age gap, only about like 6 years, which I usually consider age gap like 7 or more, or I mean around there. But this girl is, she's really kind of neglected by her family. Even though they are a rich, wealthy family, they don't appreciate her as much as the boys in the family, and so she's kind of neglected. And so her brother's best friend, he moves to town and gets a job as a teacher there, as an English teacher there, and he's really drawn to her. And however, he keeps her respectful because he's like, she's my student. I'm not going to go there. What I loved most about this is, obviously, as you've seen, I was reading a lot of student teacher books, and in fact, I have a couple more. And I just realized I'm talking about Her Perfect by Steffi Walls right now. Misbehaved is another one I'm about to talk about, but I've already started explaining the wrong book. So Her Perfect by Steffi Walls, which I'm sure I put the right picture up here, is the one I'm talking about. This one deals with an eating disorder and mental illness, so be prepared for that. But what I loved most about this is, number one, it was a very slow burn, and the teacher, Eli, I believed that he was in love with her and not in lust with her. And they were in love before anything went any further. And he was giving her attention and time, and he wasn't doing it to groom her or for any of the creepy reasons that you might see a teacher do it. Like, he saw this girl and he saw the pain she was in, and he was the only one who offered her support and attention, and eventually gets her help for the things she's dealing with. And to me, that is a selfless love. And even when that help causes him to be separated from her, he does what's best for her and not what's best for himself. And to me, that's what true love is. Then I read Misbehaved by Charlie Rose. And this was a student teacher one that was a little bit darker. So this one is about a girl who, she is living basically alone with her stepbrother, and he's kind of been making the moves on her lately. He's only a couple years older than her. And she gets into this fancy academy, and her English teacher knows her stepbrother because his sister, he blames her death on the stepbrother. So he's out for some revenge against her stepbrother. And he's also very fascinated by this girl, and she's very sexy and looking for attention, and they end up having this kind of like cat and mouse game with each other where she's kind of like egging him on always, and he's just like, nope, I'm not going to go for it. But, you know, they always give in. And this one had some serious situations in it. It was pretty intense again, but I really, really loved it. And then I read another student-teacher romance. This one was also a brother's best friend. And this one was called Burnout by Coralie June. I had a theme this month, guys. I had a theme. And this one is about a girl who's just lost her mother. And so she's already 18. And she's coming to live with her brother, who her brother was actually given up for adoption. He's older than her. By about like, this is another one where it's not really an age gap because they're only about like 6 years apart. But he is very suspicious of this girl coming in to her brother's life. He thinks that she's here for the money. She thinks that she's going to take advantage of his friend. And so he's very protective of his friend and kind of like pushes back against her. And they just have amazing chemistry. This is a very slow burn. There's also some other elements involved. Her father, who is a good man, but is still involved in kind of a hard life. He got in with some bad people when he was in prison, and that's kind of following him around. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting life that he's living. Okay, just a few more here. And I don't have as much to say about this one. This was another 5-star read, An Echo in the Bone. I have a full review for this up on my channel. This is the 7th book in the Outlander series. It is, of course, a 5 out of 5 stars. It was wonderful. It builds upon the story so much. I have so many notes that I took, and I have an hour-long review of that video. So if you want to hear more, check it out. Then I read My American Duchess by Eloisa James. This book was so much fun. This is about a girl named Mary who is an American heiress, and she has already jilted 2 fiancés. And so when she says yes to her 3rd fiancé, she's determined that this man will be her husband and she's not getting out of it. And then she meets his twin brother, but doesn't know it's his twin brother. And they have a really fun chat together, and they start to fall for each other in that moment. Anyway, well, not fall. He thinks she is just a delight, and she is really interested in him. And then they find out who each other is, and he's determined to win her from his brother. Well, first he's determined that he's going to step out of the way and his brother's going to have him. But his brother has some issues, and he's not treating Mary very well. And so Jack really goes about winning her back in a very clever way. And then, because this is a romance, we know the 2 who belong together end up together. We also have some other issues that we're dealing with, and he doesn't believe that love exists, and he doesn't know how to love. So she goes about trying to convince him, and I cried a lot. It's really good. Then I finally finished The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in the Mistborn trilogy, and this one I gave 5 stars. I can't even sum this up. Look up people who are smarter and more intelligent than me about it, but I was on the edge of my seat last night finishing it, and I also cried when I read this, because I just cry about everything. And then the final book that I have finished so far is His Custody by Tamsin Parker, and this is a age gap romance, BDSM. It is about a girl who loses everyone in one fell swoop. She loses her boyfriend, her boyfriend's parents, and her own parents, and they were all friends, and the only one left is her boyfriend's older brother. He's significantly older, Jasper, and he is determined to take care of her. He is kind of living the life of a playboy. He's into the BDSM scene, but he gives it all up. He gets his life on the straight and narrow. Well, maybe not so narrow, but he tries to be there for this girl. Like, he doesn't want her to lose anyone else. He wants to be who she needs, as well as he's pretty attracted to her. But so some other things that are happening too is that she has horrible nightmares. And so almost every night she ends up in his room in bed with him, and he actually, it's so sad. Like, it's so sad because for her, she is attracted to him too, but she's grieving so much and she just needs comfort and she has no one else to give it. And so when she wakes up, like, she just is begging for him to comfort her and like help her get to sleep. And he has to tell her, he's like, if anyone found out about this, they'd take you away from me. Do you want that to happen? Because for the first like 6 months of this novel, she's only 17. And she's like, you're right. You're right. And he's like, I would get you back no matter what I had to do. But do you want to put us through that, or do you just want to wait? Can you make it until your birthday, basically? So it was really beautiful. It was really painful because they both lost everyone that they loved. And so you just want these two people to be happy. And so even though it's inappropriate, even though it's not what it's, you know, should be, which since when do I care? But speaking in the context of like just this story, you want these two people to be happy. And so when things start to develop, and not only develop, but Jasper realizes that she enjoys some of the same things he does, it's just really beautiful to get to see these two people who thought they'd never be happy again find someone who understands them. So yeah. All right, so much for, you know, this is why I can't wait till the end of the month anymore, guys, because I read too many damn books. So thank you so much for watching. I put out new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye!